You are listening to the Field Coach Experts podcast, where we share the secrets of field support that are unlocking hidden profitability in progressive brands across North America. We've been having so much fun certifying field coaches across North America and helping brands shift from a more traditional operational support model to strategic growth coaching, which moves franchisees from being operators stuck working in their business to growth-minded business owners. Okay, before I go any further, in case you're wondering what the heck is going on with my voice, I am with Jen Brannon here, but we're in different places. I'm in DC right now. I've had a lot of fun and education at the IFA Advocacy Summit, and just you can't stop everything. You've got to sometimes just keep going. So I'm on the road in a hotel, and here we are, Jen Brannon and I. We are about to kick off our episode on strategic growth coaching. Jen, you're going to have to help me and do most of the talking today.
I think that that is true, and your voice, yeah, it's really not not there.
It's beautiful. And I have to say, when I used to, um, especially when I was on my own with AC Inc., as I was starting to just initially build, and I would go to all these conferences and things like the summit. And it was a friend of ours that said, if you don't sound like this at the end of the conference, you didn't network hard enough.
There
So
you
I
go.
think I get an A plus. I get an A plus on this one, wouldn't you say?
I do, and yeah, you definitely know how to network. So I'm sure you've been talking nonstop, and
My
you've
mom
got your
always says the
tea,
reason
so
I lose my Yeah, I
that'll
got my
speak.
tea. I'm drinking the
Good,
tea. Yep,
good.
that's there. My mom always says that the reason I have no, like my voice goes quickly is because I screamed and cried a lot when I was a kid. So
Oh,
we'll find out. Or we won't find out. We'll get through this today though. So
okay.
yeah, so I'm super excited. Jen and I are doing our ACJB interview kind of chit chat banter and talking today. And so yeah, today we're going to get into the strategic growth coaching framework that we use at AC Inc. This isn't a sales pitch or anything. What we're trying to do here is help brands understand the importance of having a framework for your coaching and a structure and a system and the importance of that. So, Jen, let's start with why we created this strategic growth coaching framework from your perspective, and then I can chime in as well.
hmm Well, as a former franchisee, I received a lot of coaching from a lot of different coaches. Being in franchising for 20 years, basically, with two different brands. Just in the first brand, it really wasn't there, and it was more in they would send somebody in to do compliance and just check that your location was running as it should have been, brand standards and all of that stuff. And then the second brand, really in the early years, it was focused on operations. And so, however, saying that, later years, it became a lot more about business ownership and setting goals and benchmarks and creating your own scorecard and different things, more about the growth and profitability. So I was able to see the difference in that evolution. And so coming into AC Inc. over these years, we have worked with so many brands and field coaches and even franchisees. And it became just super obvious that there is, in so many brands, there is no structure to coaching. And a lot of coaches, their role is based on what we call firefighting, operational issues, giving franchisees answers to questions. That's what the role of the coach has been viewed at. And we've worked with brands that have said, yeah, we've got 10 coaches and every one of them is doing something totally different, and we are firefighters. And so we recognized this, and I was able to see a brand that did an evolution and the difference that it made. So we really spent, I think we built this over a few years, this strategic growth coaching framework, so that we could help brands get away from what they thought was coaching, which was actually consulting, which we've talked about in the past, so that they could actually coach their franchisees based on where the franchisee's end goal is in their business and help them get there going through the process, which we'll talk about. So that's really why we saw a big gap in the industry, and we wanted to fill it because what AC Inc. cares about is the success of our franchisees, because we know that's what builds a successful franchise.
I got to add that what also we were seeing that I'm thinking like it's kind of fun to flash back actually, is that brands would have if they had maybe three or maybe it was 12, field coaches or what they maybe called, maybe they even called different things, just so everybody knows we're talking about. It could be area manager, regional manager, district representatives, sometimes they're called director of operations. Franchise business coaches is one of the more common, but we say field coach because it's just nice and broad. And they would have, whether it's three or 12 or whatever. And not only was it not consistent, but they would have one person in one market and they're really moving the needle. And then they have someone else in another market and they're not. And it's like, wait a minute, we can't tell if that's because of the human, person that's supporting the franchisees, or is it a regional issue? Is it just coincidence and those franchisees are, more higher performers? Like what is going on? And so this having a framework that everybody's working from, we saw that will help take out that guesswork, of what's going on. And then what we've done, I'm jumping ahead a bit, but I'm going to come back. But what we've done is, having had the really not just opportunity, but I'm going to say honor of running our roundtables for 5.5 years, is been able to see what brands, and then of course all the brands we've worked with, but really the landscape out there of what brands were actually getting more success with franchisees and what were they doing. And then of course you and I looking, and our team members that have been franchisees or in the field, which everybody has either one or the other, and saying what what did we see that was missing, right? And so yeah, really, that's what led to it. The other thing I have to say is when I first started Angela Cote Consulting Inc. when way back, and I would talk to people because I was trying to figure out what are the pain points that I might be able to help people with. And when I looked at, what did we do well at the family business M&M meat shops, and it just kept coming back to something about support. But the question I kept getting asked, and you hinted at there, or maybe mentioned this as well, Jen, but people would say, like, we feel like we're missing structure. We're missing structure we don't have a system. And I think it's so funny because how ironic is it that franchising is all about systems, and we make our franchisees follow systems, but franchisors don't have systems, like really solid systems for coaching. And so that's what I was initially really being asked by people with, whether they had 26 franchisees or even a couple hundred franchisees. They're like, we we don't know if something's not right. Something is not working because at the end of the day, their franchisees were not engaged enough as they wanted them to be. They weren't profitable enough. And we think there's something to do with our support. So that's where we just, as a team came together and really recognized that. So I know I just threw a lot of that out there, but I was just having fun flashing back too.
Yeah, yeah, and you're so right. This is what we offer here with strategic growth coaching. It is all of the structure, whether it is meeting agendas. So, what does a coaching session look like? Because a lot of times, a coaching session is, hey Angela, how are things going? And then we
And
know.
then I would just like start yelling all the problems
Yes, yes, exactly.
as a franchisee.
So we've built the agenda around the framework, the strategic growth framework, so that we can incorporate into the coaching that is done. Of course, there's always going to be issues that a franchisee has. We can't escape that. But what we do is we control how we roll through a coaching call, and then we get to those issues when it's appropriate, when we've gone through the action steps, when we've looked at the scorecard or the financials or whatever it is that we're doing with that franchisee, when we have looked at what are the next action steps in order for you to reach your 90-day goals that you've set. Okay, great. We've gone through those so that we're continuously moving forward with growth and not getting derailed by issues. Now we've got however much time left. What are the key things that we want to work through today? Right? So agenda is one, cadence is another. The actual toolbox, which we have as part of our strategic growth coaching, which is going through and really understanding your franchisees' why and their long-term vision for their business and short-term, and then break that down into goals and action steps. And the action plan is the biggest thing, so that we always know what those action steps are that the franchisee is committed to doing. To move forward. So we've got the toolbox, and within that, we've got all kinds of tools that a coach may want to be using. Whether it's community marketing plan, whether it's the impact action matrix, or the now analysis. Like, it's just so many things that we build in so that the coach can adapt and customize to the franchisee and what their needs are. And that's why we call it a toolbox. Pull out of the toolbox what's needed for that particular franchisee.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so one thing I want to say just for our audience, that we want you to get value out of this podcast just from listening to this. So when you're hearing all of this, whether you want to talk to us and learn more about how we can help you, or you just take the key points and go, I need a toolbox. That's good, right? Like, even if you go away from this and go, maybe, we need a standardized agenda that coaches use. And it doesn't mean it can't be customized, like Jen said, but these are some elements that are missing. So I just want the audience to be thinking and picking up some clues so that you don't feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't go work with AC Inc., we think you should really come work with us, but but we're not going to make you, but there's ways you can do this on your own. I also wanted to point out when you said about the agenda, it's not that we're not going to let the franchisee have a bit of venting time if that's what they need, or emotional time to get things off their chest. As you said, Jen, it's going to come up in a certain point in the agenda, but the franchisee knows they're going to get that opportunity. And so they have like a predictability, like when they get on that call with the coach, they know, okay, there will be time for that if I need it. And so they're not as panicky. Like, if they think that, oh man, I just got to like make sure this liaison person that works for the franchisor knows all my problems, that's often why they just start at the beginning and they just want to be heard. So if they know that in this agenda, I'm going to get that, then that will help them feel more calm. I also wanted to comment on the toolbox. What I've loved is, we created this program, and we've got a lot of brands using it. We've got field coaches who are certified that are bringing it sort of in a do-it-yourself kind of way into their brands. I keep hearing, Jen, about the toolbox out there. Like, when I'm at a franchise conference and I see a client of ours or somebody that has worked with us in the past, everyone loves the toolbox. So I just want to point out, like, I think it's so cool. Like you said, what is the problem? What tool do we need to fix it? Right. So yeah, just a few comments there.
Yeah, I think one of the things about the toolbox that I want to mention is, and this is so important, is this is not us just using a tool on a franchisee. The toolbox belongs to the franchisee. Meaning, I have one of my clients calls it the franchisee's business plan. And, because it's their information, it's what we use to capture what is their vision for their business. Let's do an analysis, which is kind of a deeper SWOT. Let's capture all of that information. We've got the action plan in here as well. And when this isn't just, I'm the coach, I'm bringing you this, this is where I'm just going to capture my notes and you're never going to see this. The toolbox is a interactive tool, if you will, that lots of franchisees, especially those that are minded this way, they will go into their toolbox and they will, okay, what are my next action steps? I like to tick things off. I did this one, I did this one, okay, I'm going to do this. They don't even need their coach because they're utilizing it already, and they've realized, okay, this big issue has come up, I need to capture that somewhere so that I can figure out how I'm going to deal with it when I talk to my coach, and we're going to create an action plan around that. So it's an interactive tool. There's a scorecard in there, which is, again, where they're going to be putting in, how am I measuring up to what my goals are in my scorecard? And, oh, I'm not on track, what am I going to do about it? I'm not going to wait till my next coaching call. I see I'm not on track to get a certain number of leads or my conversion rate or whatever. So I'm going to own that, and then I'm going to do something about it. So that's why I think an important thing is it's the ownership. This really drives ownership with the franchisee.
That is like that's what franchisors want, right?
Yeah.
And the coaches, and they want franchisees to take ownership of their success. And they always say, like, how do I do that? Well, here's a way,
Mhm.
like have them be involved. And I love when you said about the toolbox, that I just like thought about the doctor, when you go to the doctor and they take notes and you always wonder what they're writing. Like
Mhm.
it's not helpful, right? Like I want to know
Yeah.
what you're actually seeing, and just like let's have transparency and work together, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, that's really good. So I think this is good because we're getting at, I think we're probably hopefully helping people understand what strategic growth coaching is. We could probably let's give a little bit more color to it, but just to summarize so far, it's having, we talked about like a standardized agenda, which you can customize as you need, but pretty standardized. And then um, we talked about the toolbox. We talked about empowering and franchisees and getting ownership. What else comes to mind, Jen, that people might be wondering? What is strategic growth coaching? What is the framework?
Well, that's kind of, I've kind of outlined what the framework is, utilizing the toolbox, but the essence of it is really about focusing on short-term and long-term goals and the action steps that the franchisee, not we're telling them what to do, because we know that that never goes down well, but that we've worked on, they understand, and we do in our accelerator program, not to give another little pitch at all, but we teach coaches these strategies of how to use that so that we can keep our franchisees bought in and motivated to do what they need to do to reach those goals. And so the strategic growth coaching framework really promotes that. And that's really in essence what it's all about. And an important thing about this is because we may have some listeners here thinking, okay, well, that would be good with maybe people who are really bought in and love to be organized and love structure. But what about my people that aren't really engaged, or my top performers, or my low performers who are very optional? And I would challenge that this framework is good for everyone. It works and is impactful for everyone. We may not do, if I have a franchisee that can't make payroll and is drowning, well, we're not going to talk about their long-term vision with them and deal with it. It's so customizable to what their needs are. However, we are going to do a deep dive on their business and find out what the heck is going on and try to come up with some real short-term goals to help get them out of that. Top performers. This is another one. So many brands don't coach their top performers. because they, well, what are we going to teach them? They're great operators. They're doing well. So then the coaches just focus usually on the low performers or those middle of the road guys. And what I say to that is we're leaving money on the table for everyone. We are not
Yeah.
supporting our top performers because the way strategic growth coaching is designed is it's also for those people, let's think what the next level is. Where do you want to get to? Let's work together to figure out what are those action steps to get you to that next level. And now I'm your partner in this. I'm not coming in to tell you how to run your business or how to operate it or you should do this or you should do that. I'm now working with you as this accountability partner, someone to bounce ideas off of, and that there's value now in what we're doing together. And we have heard so many top performers say that to us and finally say, you know what? Now I want to go to my coaching calls because now there's value, and they weren't saying that before. So I think
Yeah.
it's that's an important part. Is it's really great for engagement of all different types of franchisees at all different stages, brand new ones that have been in own this business for 30 years. It doesn't matter, and it's really one of the things is the coach has to understand, how do I customize or navigate with this particular franchisee who's in front of me, what their needs are, and then I'm going to take that approach using the toolbox strategic growth coaching. That's the key, is being able to figure out where are they at, what do they need, and I'm going to meet them where they're at.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just, yeah, yeah. Oh, can't emphasize enough everything. Not that I need to emphasize, but the top performers, this teaches, between this and when we do actually, the field coach certification, teaches the coaches how to get those top performers engaged and how to have credibility with them. I think one of the, besides keep hearing about the people loving the toolbox, one of the big things I keep hearing about people that have implemented the framework and, or at the very least use the certification, but is that the coaches feel like, now I feel empowered and I feel more confident because I know what I'm doing. I have clarity, right? Like clarity creates confidence. So having a framework, again, go make your own if you want, but have a framework that people can come back to so that you can create more confidence in your coaches because they know what to do and they know what to expect. Um, let's touch on, people often ask us, oh, is that just for brand new brands? Um, I'll chime in on one thing just from my experience, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. I actually think it's almost more needed in the more established brands that
Mhm.
are like have fallen down a very traditional path.
Yes.
I know when I was a franchisee, so I was store number 300, 319, and then 327 in the chain when I had my three stores. And over the years, we grew to almost 500 in the chain. So we'd been around a while. Like the company had been around 30 something years. And I I remember just it was like one of those things where people things weren't necessarily by that point being reflected on, like why are we, that whole thing, like why are we doing this? Oh, that's how we always did it. And so I see a lot of the older brands and their franchise, like it's just this kind of lackluster way of supporting franchisees. It's the firefighting and no one's moving the needle, and they're just, nobody's growing, and it's just gotten stale. So I think, and we're working with some right now, very established brands who realize, oh yeah, we got to level this up. We got to get innovative, especially if you want to get out ahead of the competition. There's so much competition with so many franchise companies these days. A, for franchisees, to get franchisees, and B, for your end user, your customer. And so if you want to just sit there and kind of go die on a log, go ahead. But I think it's especially important. Although there's an argument, I'll let you talk more about the other stages of brands because there's really an argument for any stage. So what when I ask that, what do you want to say about that?
Well, I
About
actually I want
at
to
what
tell.
stage?
Yeah, I want to tell a quick story just to your point, Ange.
Please.
So
Yes.
I was part of a brand, what year? Early 2000s. Probably from 2000 to 2010, if I remember correctly. And they at the time didn't have a lot of coaching, and at near the end, when I after I left or before I left, they were starting to get coaching, very operational coaching. I literally just did a call, an introduction call with one of their field coaches who'd heard about our program, our field coach certification, and she's new into the same system that I'm talking about that had thousands of franchisees. Well, maybe they were 1,500 to 2,000, I think, back in the day. And now she is a new coach, and so I asked the questions. I was so excited because hey, I know this brand well. Nothing has changed. And that was in the early 2000s, exactly the same way. So I think that really shows that there hasn't been a lot of evolution with a lot of these legacy long-term brands, but now the realization is there that we can do things a different way. So and back to your question. Yeah,
Yeah.
as far as the stage where a franchisee's at in order to be doing this, it's really brand new people out of training. What we're doing now is right from the jump, we're training them on the importance of business skills, which is what we're doing here. Is we're teaching them how to think strategically, how to put together their long-term plan. I just did a social media video today about exiting. We should be talking to them about exiting day one. What do you want your exit to look like and why? What's important to you? What are you going to do if you sell this business for X amount of dollars in 10 years? What do you want to do with that? Right? Because that is a massive driver for us. So we want to have these conversations early on to understand those things. We want to get them looking at their KPIs in a scorecard fashion right away. We want to bring in some of our goal setting tools of where are we going to be in the first 90 days and so on. Our community marketing planner, let's create that. So brand new out of the jump, we're building those habits that we have been told by brands that we've worked with that their franchisees are ramping up so much faster now that they've implemented these things, right? So these brand new franchisees, more established franchisees and top performers, doesn't matter, people that are low performers. It works for everyone, but it is really just about customizing what you do and your tool, which again, we teach a lot so that we are doing the right things where that franchisee is at.
Hmm. I want to touch on this is a hot tip for people. Um, probably shouldn't give this away, but I'm gonna. Um, what we found, and you know this, Jen, of course, but what we found is that franchisors, and this is sort of an average, but under about 30 open franchises, it's around when they get to about 30 open franchisees, operating franchisees, or about 3 years in, one or the other, is when they start to really feel the pain point of not having set up support from the
Mhm.
beginning in a proactive coaching way like we profess. And so I'm going to be bold and say if you're listening to this and you think that you're hearing this and you're thinking, well, we'll deal with that when we get the pain point. Well, it, it's kind of like, okay, so we're not going to get insurance even though we know the house is going to burn down. We just don't know exactly when. So we're not going to get house insurance until we think it's going to burn down. It's kind of like that. But we might not, but who knows, right? So, um, I just encourage people at the very least to start implementing some of the things we're telling you to go do yourself. At the very least, because we really do care about the win-win relationship that you can have, and not just win-win, but it's exponential what you can get if you get this right, if you get this coaching right financially, from a fulfillment standpoint, all of those things. So I encourage, if you're listening and you're not ready to go full on because you're an earlier stage brand, just at least start some things. I'll throw in a quick plug for our roundtables, our free roundtables. If you're kind of like hearing this and thinking, kind of it's getting its hook in me, but I just need to hear more. Come to our roundtables and hear from other franchisors that either have done this on their own or are maybe working with us and can talk about it. Peer-to-peer platform. It's not the AC Inc. show. It's the peer-to-peer platform. So yeah, those are just a couple of things I wanted to say. But yeah, definitely, I would say, you tell me, Jen, but I'd say we see a lot around 100 locations where they've got about three field team members where they're going, okay, we really got to do something now. So they got there, kind of, they got lucky because they got to that point without losing a bunch of franchisees maybe. But yeah, it really goes, that's why I'm
Maybe.
trying to say it really works for all stages, all industries. It's
Hmm.
really just about getting into that human element, that human mindset, and then using some structures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
any last thoughts, Jen, before we get to the Go Be Awesome challenge?
Um, no, I just one little tidbit to what you just said is really want to encourage brands to do it sooner rather than later. Again, our mission, because we're all former franchisees, a lot of us are former franchisees, and our mission is to help franchisors support franchisees better so that franchisees can grow and be profitable and happy and all of that kind of stuff. So take any of this, what you've heard, even follow us on social media and hear all the different tips and stuff, and take it and do it on your own if need be. I mean, we're here to support, but it's more important that you use this information to make changes in your own brand, because to your point about, oh, we got to 100 units and we've been firefighting and no structure to our coaching, chances are pretty good you've got some unhappy franchisees as a
Yeah,
result, because we hear and see it time and time and time again, because there's no value to the coaching some of the time. So I just wanted to say that little tidbit
yeah,
to try to prevent that from happening to brands out there.
yeah. And you're pretty much guaranteed to be leaving money on the table too. So if you're not thinking about
Absolutely.
this framework and that. Okay, real quick, Go Be Awesome challenge, Jen. I guess we kind of maybe just did it.
We kind of said it.
The Go Be Awesome challenge is something I made up on the spot, one of those last interviews. What do you encourage people to go do? Maybe you could give a couple of examples of things that they could take and go do like this week.
You could, if you've got coaches or you're supporting franchisees, make sure that at the end of any coaching session, what are the key action steps that they are going to be doing? Those franchisees are going to be doing that they have said, yep, this is what I want to do. That's one. Another one is start asking your franchisees, what do you want long term out of this business? What's your end goal? And not, I can't say this enough, not I want to sell my business for $1 million. It's not about the money. It's about what is the money going to do for them. We
Yeah,
need to get the warm and fuzzy. You want franchisees bought in and motivated? Get the warm and fuzzy, is what is it going to do for them as people? Because that's what we want to
yeah,
tap into, because then we want to be their partner in order to help them get there. So I think those are
yeah.
those are a
They'll
couple of
want.
tips.
Yeah, those are good. Like find out their why, find out what's driving them, find out what they want, tie their action steps back to that. I'll throw in also just even standardizing your agenda.
Hmm.
Figure out an agenda that all coaches use, the same one, so that there's some consistency that you can learn from and share learnings and stuff. So,
Yeah.
okay, well that was awesome, JB. I'm gonna close us off. Thank you for all your awesome wisdom. I think we survived. I still have my voice a little bit.
You do. You're doing well.
Yeah. I should probably shut up now though. So, but I will close us out. So that is it for today's episode of the Field Coach Experts. Thanks, Jen. As always, our goal is to leave you with simple, actionable ways to modernize your field coaching, unlock hidden profitability that's sitting right inside your brand. So if something shifted today for you, you got a new idea, be sure to pass this episode along to someone on your ops team or a fellow franchisor. And of course, if you're curious what this could look like in your system, you know where to find us. Until next time, go be awesome.